Welcome to another edition of Stand on Guard. Hello from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I'm in my hotel room here. Thanks for joining. When I come back, I got three things I wanted to discuss with you this morning as I'm on the road, but we'll be right back.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
Yes, please like the station, give it the thumbs up, subscribe. We've been doing that in big numbers lately. The goal is 40,000 by the end of this month. I think we can do that. We can do it together. Yes, thank you so much for watching. I'm hearing a lot of comments about the timing of the show. Like I'm doing it at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time again today. Some people are saying it's too late. I have to weigh this over the next 3 weeks. We'll see what we want to do in the new year. I will be broadcasting every day, hell or high water. I think this is probably the most important thing I do. I really, really believe that. And there's a couple of notes. I'm in this hotel, and I'm not going to say which hotel it is, because I don't want to disparage anybody's business, because the service has been fine, but it's very, very strange because you can't get to your room from the lobby. You have to go to another section of the hotel, take an elevator, then go up, unless you're staying on the first floor. In other words, you can't get to the second floor of the hotel from the lobby. And I've never seen anything strange. And it's like half a mile to find the fitness room. I joke that's the reason it's so far away, right? So you don't really need a fitness room, because by the time you get there, you've done your workout for the day. Anyway, that's probably what I'm going to try to do after I have finish the show here, is go to the fitness room, maybe get some breakfast. I don't know. I got to make a comment about air travel, because it's literally, I have not traveled by air in a year, almost to the day. I was out last December to see my mom. And like I say, we're making a pit stop here in Saskatoon. And on the way there, be there tomorrow. And so it's been a year since I've flown, because nobody's literally chained to their desk. That's a stupid expression, but I have been just so busy that I haven't had time to travel anywhere. And I even feel guilty taking a few days doing this, even though this is hardly a vacation. This is all about looking after my mom and taking care of some important legal affairs that I have to be there in person to do, and making sure things are okay at the nursing home. So this is not a vacation. And the flights have been crazy. 2 hours waiting to take off yesterday in Ottawa and Toronto. And did you hear Air Canada now? And I'm sorry to go on about this, but it's really relevant to so many people. And you talk about how bad air travel is today. Thank God the COVID hysteria is over, so you don't have to sit there with a mask on or present your papers before you go through security. At least that's over. But Air Canada now is saying they don't want anybody below business class to be able to carry on luggage. Well, I realized yesterday why they're doing that. I mean, yeah, they're all incredibly cheap now. You pay through the nose for everything. I mean, a $5 chocolate bar on the plane. And then, you get a little bag of pretzels, like big, a little bag of pretzels with your free water. And actually, they were giving away complimentary beer yesterday. I couldn't believe that. But they were nickel and dime you to death. Of course, any luggage that you stow on board is costing you an arm and a leg. There's an old expression. And so that's why, of course, people are opting to bring it on board. Everybody's bringing it on board. It's so ridiculous. The flight I took yesterday from Ottawa to Toronto, it was a connector. They literally ran out of space above the seats to put people's luggage, these carry-on bags with the wheels on it. We all have one. And people are just shoving it all up there. And it's just, you feel like you're in, the only way I could describe it is those slave ships, you see in like movies like Ben-Hur, where everybody's just crammed together and you almost feel like you're rowing because it's just an ordeal to fly these days. I'm not old enough to remember the 1960s, of course, and those halcyon days of Pan Am when the stewardesses could have also worked at the Playboy Club. And you had wonderful meals. But I do vaguely remember the 1970s when we had 747 jumbo jets and you could actually walk upstairs to a lounge, a piano bar. And I tell that to some of the young folks today, and I mean really young, and they think I'm kidding. That air travel was ever like that you could go out to a piano bar and you didn't have to jostle your way down the hall, the aisle, and you could walk upstairs and you could sit down and have a drink, and there was actually somebody playing the piano. It's true. Anyway, that's what's, and of course the meals. I remember Ward Air in Canada. You had a steak dinner. You actually had a steak dinner. Now, of course, they come around with a menu, and you can get a $15 sandwich, or if it's available, and it's otherwise. Oh, I miss even the 80s air travel. I really do, when it was a lot more civilized. But I had to get that off my chest because it's been, every time I travel now by air, I just say, my God, this is just not even worth it. So while I'm traveling yesterday, what's happening? Dominic LeBlanc, our public safety minister, has been putting his foot in his mouth on a daily basis, decides he's going to come for your guns. Yeah. And of course, it's a gun buyback program. What a piece of nonsense this is. But BS. Dominic LeBlanc didn't sell me any guns, and I don't own any guns, okay? Like, I've used them in the military, but I don't own any guns. I certainly would like to. It's just not something I've ever needed to do. I'm all for the right to own a gun. But Dominic LeBlanc didn't sell anybody a gun. The government didn't sell you. If you're a gun owner, God bless you. If you're a gun owner, Dominic LeBlanc or the Liberal government didn't sell you your gun. So how the hell are they going to buy it back? Well, how is that a buyback program? Because you didn't buy your gun from the Liberal government. And this is all nonsense. They're going to collect all of our guns, buyback, right? And they're going to give them to Ukraine. I'll get to the Ukraine BS in a minute. This is incredible, this stupid plan they have. We'll put Dominic on in a minute. Looking a lot like Joe Stalin. And just like taxes today have nothing to do with raising money or revenue for the government. It's all about punishing you. It's punitive. Taxes are strictly punitive. They're punishing you. Just like the carbon tax doesn't do anything to fight pollution. It doesn't do anything to fight carbon because people still have to fill their gas tanks, still have to heat their homes. It doesn't do anything to alleviate that so-called greenhouse gas emission crisis that we're going through. All it does is punish people for living. It's punitive because the government wants to raise revenue. They don't need to tax people anymore. They just print more money. That's all they do, and create more inflation. So taxation is not about raising revenue anymore. I'll say it again. It's about punishing average Canadians. It's punitive. And this is what the gun buyback program is about. It's about making you feel like you're powerless, so you have no control. And let's listen to Dominic here to explain it.
Is to act on gun control and to restrict access to the very weapons used to commit these horrible crimes. Our goal is to ensure that no community, no family is devastated by mass shootings in Canada again. That's why today, as Rachel said, we're building on the historic advances we've made since 2015 by taking further action. Today, the government is adding a further 324 unique makes and models of assault-style firearms to the list of prohibited firearms in Canada. This prohibition takes effect immediately.
Okay, so this moron thinks anything is an assault-style weapon. They're going to be coming for your BB guns next, if you've got any in the attic or in the basement.
This means these firearms can no longer be legally used, sold, or imported in Canada, and can only be transferred or transported under extremely limited circumstances. The government has introduced an amnesty that is currently in force and expires on October 30th, 2025, to protect individuals who legally purchased these firearms prior to the ban. This amnesty period will protect these individuals from criminal liability as they take steps to come into compliance with the law.
How about the criminals who have the guns? What about those guys? What about the criminals who have the guns? They don't need an amnesty, Dominic, because they don't give a damn about your laws. They break the laws and they get their guns illegally, and they're not going to be giving you any buyback. They're not going to allow their guns to be bought back.
The amnesty period, there is an exception to allow Indigenous peoples exercising a right under Section 35 of the Constitution, as well as those who use firearms for sustenance hunting, to continue to use their now prohibited firearms to hunt, if previously non-restricted, until a suitable replacement can be found. As with the previous list of firearms, these models will, of course, be part of the assault-style firearms compensation program. And to that end, I'm pleased to point out that the pilot program of phase 1 of the gun buyback program is now underway. The program will be open for all businesses in the coming days. As part of that,
So you get that? It's the buyback program. Do we understand? It's buyback. Sorry, Dominique. None of us bought our weapons, our firearms from you.
process, the government of Canada has committed to the Ukrainian government to identify whether some of these guns could be donated to support the fight for democracy in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Need we comment any further about the fight for democracy in Ukraine? There is no democracy in Ukraine. Airhead Dominique LeBlanc. This guy has got about as much on the ball as Melanie Joly does. I would argue he's probably even less capable of understanding world affairs. If he thinks Ukraine is going to win this war, he is completely out of touch with reality.
My colleague Bill Blair will speak on this in a few moments. In addition to banning these guns, we're also taking action on the regulatory front.
All right, let's listen to his colleague Bill Blair embarrass himself. Sorry. Let's listen to his colleague Bill Blair embarrass himself, because this has to be seen to be believed. And of course, Bill, the former open borders minister, the guy who let everybody in on Roxham Road after Justin Trudeau said, come on in, folks, the border's open. Bill Blair is appointed open borders minister. Yes, I know I'm being sarcastic. What was his title, actually? Borders or secure borders? I used to call him open border Blair, because he was completely ineffective. He was a complete waste of space in doing anything to stem illegal immigration. He just sat there and watched hundreds of thousands of people walk into Canada and did nothing except put them in the 5-star hotels in Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. That was the extent of his border policy. And now, of course, every time Bill Blair comes up to explain how he's doing so much for the Canadian Armed Forces, he does his Jimmy Stewart act. Remember Jimmy Stewart, the great Hollywood actor, who does he used to do his sort of his absent-minded professor. Well, folks, I can't quite remember what I'm supposed to be here for, but I know it has something to do with national defense. And here's Bill doing that act.
Day, and I wanted to acknowledge Natalie, Suzanne, Wendy, and people
Yeah.
I know who have worked
They're
so
there, Bill.
tirelessly on trying to make Canada a safer place for all of us. And as we mark a very important and solemn anniversary tomorrow.
See, he's not even sure. He's not even sure who's there with him. Where am I again? The guy's reminding me a lot of Joe Biden, actually.
I hope it increases all of our collective resolve to continue to do what is required. As my colleague, Minister LeBlanc, has indicated, we've been working very closely with our friends in Ukraine to ensure that weapons that were intended to be used in combat could be made available to them. And since Russia's brutal and unjustified invasion of Ukraine, Canada has and continues to make every effort to support our Ukrainian allies in their fight to defend their territory, their sovereignty, their citizens, and to win this war. And since 2015, Canada has committed over $19 billion worth of aid and support to Ukraine, including $4.5 billion worth of lethal and non-lethal military equipment.
Yeah, $5 billion they're admitting to of military equipment, including our Leopard tanks, which got blown into little pieces on the battlefield. $5 billion of military equipment we can't replace, Bill. And you won't say that, although General Leslie will say that. The former Liberal whip will say that. A former lieutenant general in the Canadian Armed Forces will say that. But you haven't got a clue about what's going on in your department. You're completely detached, and you really think we're fighting for democracy in Ukraine. And you really honestly believe Ukraine's going to win this war. Ukraine wants the war to stop because they don't have any men or women left to sacrifice, because there have been 1 million dead.
Ukraine security forces have been very clear about the resources, support, and equipment that they need most. And we have always listened to them and tailored our donations to best meet those needs. And just this past October, we reached out to the Ukrainians once again to see whether any of the weapons that are currently under amnesty through Canada's assault-style firearms compensation program could be of any use to them in their fight against Russia. And they confirmed that indeed, some of the weapons that are part of the program would be suitable. And so I'm pleased today joining in this announcement to announce also that the Department of National Defense will begin working with the Canadian companies that have weapons that Ukraine needs, and which are already eligible for the assault-style firearm compensation program, in order to get these weapons out of Canada and into the hands of the Ukrainians. For companies that choose to participate in this initiative, the Government of Canada will pay them with the same amount, exactly the same amount, for weapons donated to Ukraine as they would have paid them to participate in the existing compensation program as outlined by my colleague, Minister LeBlanc. Every bit of assistance that we can offer to the Ukrainians is one step towards their victory and a worthwhile investment of our collective time and efforts. Ukrainians are fighting not only for their sovereignty and freedom, but they're also fighting for the rules-based international order that has kept the world safe for nearly 8 years.
Okay, Bill. So that means during the entire Cold War, we had a rules-based order. Is that right? So Vietnam War, that was rules-based. The Soviet invasion of Hungary and Czechoslovakia, that was rules-based. All the proxy wars we had going on, there were hundreds during the Cold War. That was all rules-based, was it? And now suddenly this war in Ukraine is not rules-based, and it's all Russia's fault. And you have got some kind of idea that Ukraine is going to win this war miraculously, even though they're saying, please stop the war. We cannot do this anymore. So Bill Blair, nobody in Ukraine is going to thank you for this. They're going to say, you stupid old man, keep your damn weapons. Let's end this war, work for peace, stop continuing the war, and stop making the war go on so the military folks, the military industrial complex folks, the armaments manufacturers keep making trillions of dollars off this war because nobody else is benefiting. Except, of course, those MPs who have stock options or are getting stock dividends from companies like Raytheon, Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, Northrop, the list goes on.
80 years. And our support for Ukraine in this fight will be steadfast and committed. We will continue to support Ukraine with all of the help that we can to ensure that they have the resources and support that they need to win this war and to rebuild once the fighting stops. Thank you very much.
And guess who's going to rebuild? Guess who's going to rebuild Ukraine once the fighting stops, according to people like Bill Blair? BlackRock and other companies like that. They're just waiting to rebuild because they blew it all apart so they can rebuild it. That's the economic plan. Destroy it and then rebuild it because they're making trillions of dollars in the process. And if you don't get this, if you think Bill Blair knows a thing, has two wits to rub together in his comprehension of what this war is about, or at least is telling you anything that remotely resembles the truth about what this war is about, you're crazy. Because Bill Blair is telling you absolute falsehoods, that this war is about democracy, about saving the world, about making the world safe for democracy, about keeping Ukraine safe. This is about keeping a war going because people are making a lot of money off of it. That's the stark fact. That's the horrible fact about this war. That's all it's about now. And we need to end it because you know where it's going. I can't talk about that on YouTube, though. You know where this war is going. It's horrific. Now, Justin Trudeau, of course, always knows how to make more friends. Everywhere he goes, he just, remember that old book? I think it was Norman Vincent Peale. How to make friends and influence people. That's Justin Trudeau's motto. He knows exactly how to do that. And of course, he's making more friends every year. No matter what he says and how slavish he gets to the Indigenous chiefs, they just still hate his guts. He can't. This is classic.
This is because of the boil water advisory, which he was approved. You can't make decisions without us. The land, the water in our area, the children, is our jurisdiction. Nobody, I mean nobody, will make that decisions on our behalf. It's all Nishkandaga. We assert our jurisdiction.
And we agree. We agree. And that's why we passed UNDRIP legislation. That's why we work with you and why we are charting a path forward. And yes, there is a lot of work to do. We recognize that. On boil water advisories, when we came into office, there were 109 boil water advisories, in long-term boil water advisories across the country. We lifted 140 or so. We have stopped lots of short-term advisories from becoming long-term advisories, and on the 30 or so left, there is a plan and funding for all of them. And I'll turn to Minister Haidu specifically on your. I'll turn to Minister Haidu specifically on your case because I know she.
Okay, and Patty Haidu, another waste of space in the Liberal cabinet, says she's going to be looking out for those contractors. These people, I mean, look at them sit there twiddling their thumbs like they really give a damn about this. Like if this is relevant to them all, I'd say it's just identity politics. God help these poor Native people who have been subjugated by this Liberal government for years. Let them have real equality. The Chiefs don't want that, though. The Chiefs don't want real equality. They want the special status. They want to keep getting government handouts which of course they don't dispense to the common folk, the average people, the native people, the Aboriginal, whatever you want to describe these dear people as. They get off the reserve and they get jobs and they contribute to society and they enjoy the equality of that every Canadian should be enjoying. These chiefs don't want that because it's financially been very good for them to keep subjugating their own people, to play this game with the Liberal government and other governments over the decades. Keep the government largesse coming, and the chiefs gobble it up, and then complain about, oh, none of the money is getting to our people. Yeah, it's not getting past the chiefs. We've known this for decades, the corruption that goes on. There's corruption in this government, there's corruption with the chiefs, and they know it. And I've been saying this for 25 years. It's been my critique of what's wrong in this country in terms of how we deal with Aboriginal people, Indigenous people. They need true equality. They need to function like every other Canadian, and they don't need to go through this filter of these chiefs. Now, if we can finish that.
He's been following up directly with you on that. Patty?
Well, thanks, Chief Muniz, and it was great to see you a few days ago. And as you know, we've been meeting every few months to make sure that Niskandiga stays in the centre of the work that we're doing on water. You were one of the litigants in the class action lawsuit that we settled for over $8 billion. And thank you for your leadership in fighting for clean water, not just for Niskandiga, but for the whole country. In fact, that was one of my first jobs, as you know, is being on camera with you, talking about the harms that you talked about to your community. Because as many non-First Nations people don't know, lack of access to water has profound and lasting impacts, and you've shared your own personal story with me many times. It's super disappointing to me that the plant that was installed not even a decade ago doesn't deliver clean water. And you know we have an engineering firm working with your community. You are directing that work, but they've identified deficiencies. We've committed to ensuring all of those deficiencies are rectified. And I wrote you a letter, as you know, to commit to the design of a new plant. And I understand that testing is underway right now. Furthermore, we'll be there for Niskandiga. I have committed to you that we'll keep meeting for as long as it takes to get the long-term boil water advisory lifted. And that is my word, and I have lived up to my word ever since we've known each other. So we'll continue to do this work, but I will say I am also, and this is a warning shot to all contractors out there, I'm watching.
Isn't Patty brave? Look at she's watching. This hopeless excuse for a cabinet minister. She's watching. And I don't know this chief. You know, he might have the best interests of his people at heart. He might just be really, really angry because nothing ever happens the way the government says it's going to happen. So I don't know. I know over the years there's been tremendous corruption among some. I don't know this individual. I don't know if he's personally involved. I think he's showing a range of emotion and passion that indicates that he's really concerned about why this nonsense continues on Canada's reserves. And Patty doesn't give a damn about it. It's all politics.
I am appalled at the way that First Nations communities are ripped off when millions of dollars are invested to build plants that don't deliver the water that they have committed to deliver to you. And I have, as you know, with you, talked about the many different ways that we might address that. But to all contractors, many who lobby me every single day, we're watching. Because it's unacceptable that Niskandiga got ripped off, and we will continue to make sure that that does not happen ever again.
Look at this.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister Trudeau, Minister Aidoo, Minister Ananda Sangari, Minister Virani, and Minister Vandal for staying longer. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your time. You had used your time. I'm very sorry. We do have very important resolutions for our children to discuss.
I am a youth
Prime Minister, come to discussion.
We do have very important
Bye-bye.
resolutions for our children.
Ms. Trudeau, wait, bye-bye. You can all rot in hell. I don't care. I'm off to my next meeting. Reconciliation, everybody.
Don't
walk away from us.
Keep our picture off. We're not a campaign trail.
What an indictment of the gross incompetence and the political inclination of the Trudeau government. It's all about politics. And no matter what they say, no matter how much they talk about reconciliation and diversity, and how we're so committed to, they don't give a damn, except in terms of getting power out of this situation and leveraging identity politics for more votes. That's all it's about. And these people can't stand them. These chiefs, and I'm sure the average Native person knows that the Trudeau government is not on their side. That they continually present this false face of concern and compassion and care, and it's all a mask. And Justin Trudeau doesn't care. Patty Hajdu doesn't care. The Trudeau government doesn't care. They don't really want things to work. And who suffers is the average Indigenous person. And we need a country where people have true equality. Everybody has equal opportunity. That's not what Trudeau wants. He's not for equality. He's for equity, which means special status and special rights for various groups within society. That's what Justin Trudeau is standing for. So this is an outrage. Now, have I got time for this last little bit here? This was incredible. The NDP decided to open the abortion debate yesterday. Watch this.
Opposition to move ahead with a motion of non-confidence. But instead of just singling out the governing Liberals, the Conservatives also used the motion to put pressure on the NDP, a party that continues to say it will not vote the government out, at least not yet, despite expressing lost confidence in the Liberals when New Democrats ended their supply and confidence agreement.
The House agrees with the NDP leader, and the House proclaims that it has lost confidence in the Prime Minister and the government. We all applaud the NDP leader. I know that he is enjoying the praise we're giving him.
But instead of bowing to the Conservative pressure, New Democrats took advantage of the situation today and were able to put a debate on reproductive rights on the agenda as well, asking the House to vote on a woman's right to choose.
All right, so instead of having the balls to repeat his own words and support his own words in the House of Commons, Jagmeet Singh decided, I'm going to outsmart the Conservatives. We're going to have a debate on abortion. Canada has the most liberal abortion laws in the world. You can get an abortion in Canada up to the last minute, 24/7, just about anywhere. It's a joke to say, and to call it reproductive rights is, of course, a completely disgusting euphemism. But the NDP don't have the stomach to face their own hypocrisy. And Jagmeet Singh is possibly the most unprincipled, hypocritical piece of political crap who has ever occupied an office in Canada. The man has absolutely no courage, no principle, no vision, and no right to even sit in the House of Commons any longer or to be a leader of any party except perhaps the cowardly party. That's all I've got today, folks. Thanks for watching. Can't believe we went 34 minutes in this hotel room. Be back again tomorrow with more of the news you need to know. and let's continue to resolve to resist. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow.